Welcome to Oddball History, dipshits.
A boom, 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 boom.
What is that?
You son of a bitch. Are you abandoning the opening thing?
Yeah, I bailed on you.
Wow.
I thought that would be a funny bit.
I feel betrayed. It's like Netflix and Pornhub have sound cues when things start.
To leave you hanging in the middle of the...
This podcast just ruined a streak. It's the end of an era. I hate to start off with such a negative note. Sorry to all the listeners.
We can redo it if you want.
A boom, 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 boom.
How?
All right, we'll take it.
That was on Jeopardy. Jeopardy Masters.
Yeah.
Ken Jennings said how on Jeopardy Masters this week. How about that? It was a clue about Lagrange.
Nice.
Which I, of course, got. It was like the only clue I got because it's Jeopardy Masters. It is ball-bustingly hard.
That is... I always like the celebrity one because it's more manageable.
Yeah.
Where they kind of dumb it down for everybody. Like Pink's on it, so we got to, talk about dirt bikes and shit.
Yeah. And
More
there's
by
always
speed.
one really actually smart celebrity that just destroys their...
Yeah.
Ike Barinholtz recently
Came out swinging.
He killed it. He got invited to like a regular Jeopardy like tournament of champions.
Yeah.
He did that well.
I mean, if Conan would kind of wipe the floor with everybody.
Did he do it?
I don't know if he's ever done it, but I mean,
I could imagine.
he's a Harvard man.
Yeah.
Andy
He wrote for the
Richter.
Lampoon.
The Lampoon.
I think Andy
Oh, yeah,
Richter,
Andy Richter also, I think.
killed people on Celebrity Jeopardy. He's
I believe
one of those guys.
Have y'all seen Conan Must Go yet?
Not yet.
It's
haven't.
just perfect. It's
I can't
Conan's
wait.
the best of all time to do
His
anything.
Hot Ones was just
Just
like,
Pete Conan as well.
It
Yeah.
should win like a Pulitzer Prize or something. I don't know.
Do they still do Webbies? Is that a thing still? I haven't heard of.
I have no idea. They might be doing some version. It's one of those things where everything, all awards and all types of things go through like, oh, now it's part of this association.
Yeah.
And so it's now way less legit or more legit or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody buys the rights to host it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say this: if there is a Webby
crack.com
still,
Webbies.
give us a fucking Webby.
Yeah, give it a.
You think you're too good for us if you exist still?
The award for mid-tier history podcasts goes to.
That's me buttering up the voters.
I got you. So today on Oddball History, we have
Hey.
a guest. Pete, would you like to introduce yourself? You're the smartest comedian in Dallas.
Oh, that's not necessary. That's a very dubious
At
honor
least.
of.
Yeah, that is.
It's
true.
not a deep pool of contestants for that award, but
But yeah, Pete Jung at What Did Pete Say? I am also a giant nerd.
Dungeon Master? Engineer. Engineer should go before Dungeon Master, I
I
suppose.
do a lot more dungeon mastering than engineering these
Yeah.
days.
Fair.
But yeah.
Still, one of the more fun things I've ever done was when we had that comedian game.
Oh yes, the one of where you sexually assaulted a bear.
Yeah. You gotta, in context of the game, it made more sense. But just to...
Jimmy chose the bear. You know the current internet joke
Oh, yeah.
about choosing the bear?
I don't know the internet joke about the
The
bear.
whole of the
There's
if
like
you
a
meet a
poll of
strange
women.
man in a forest or a bear,
Yeah.
you go with the
You
bear.
go with the bear,
Would you
I
rather
gotcha.
encounter? Yeah.
Also,
And
the
they
Devin
chose-
Clark joke, in the woods.
in the woods.
Everything's scarier if it's
Shout
in
out
the
Devin
woods.
Clark.
Yeah.
That
We
is
brought
a
him up
very
like
funny
4
bit.
times and haven't had him on. But
He's a hilarious dude.
very
man,
funny.
for sure.
all right, so
go see him.
Pete's bringing a topic today, and it's Jack Parsons.
Jack Parsons, father of modern rocketry. This story's kind of got everything. It's got the Red Scare. It's got occult magic.
Yep.
It's got L. Ron Hubbard. It's got an LAPD corruption trial. It's got all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, it really covers all the bases. L. Ron Hubbard makes an appearance.
I can't wait to get into it because I did not do a lot of research this week. I did see a picture of Jack Parsons. He looks like a cool character.
Oh yeah, he looks like somebody cast him as him in like an old timey movie.
Yes.
Like, we need an insane rocket scientist. You're our guy.
Yeah. Could
Central
have been played by
strangely charismatic.
Yeah.
Philip
but still
Seymour
fallen.
Hoffman.
Yeah.
So I think they talk about he was the father of the foundings of NASA. He was deeply involved in.
He was one of the original guys for effectively what became JPL, Jet Propulsion Labs. He's strangely enough, he's this huge guy, never actually finished school.
Yeah.
Kind of off and on because his dad left them when he was a kid. He went to various schools, kind of off and on.
Was that his fault that his dad left?
I don't entirely know. Historians are vague onto whether or not his father's departure and who knows, maybe all of that later magic was really just to summon his dad back from getting milk and cigarettes.
Yeah, that's it. That is the Oddball History stance on divorce. Is for the children of divorce. You got to look at yourself first.
Maybe take a look in the mirror, pal.
Yeah, I don't know. If you were a better kid, maybe they would have stuck together. Yep. So
look, they're your parents, so the one thing they can have in common is you.
Yes. If they could make it work, the combination of their genes, you're going to be a mess. So,
sorry.
But Jack Parsons, he's this young guy, California. I think he lived out in Pasadena for a long time. Mm-hmm. Really, he kind of a nerd, although does weirdly bad in school. But apparently, people think that he might have actually been dyslexic.
Yeah.
But
they didn't know about that back then.
They didn't know about that back in the day, back in the 1920s. But
they were worried about bowls and dust then.
Yeah. But he goes to college. They don't have enough money, so he can't keep going to college. So he, since high school, I think he started working off and on at the Hercules Powder Company.
Yeah, making gunpowder. This is
gunpowder.
Fantastic.
As a teenager and then a 20-year-old. That's definitely a job that should go to a young person.
That is everyone's goes through a pyro phase where you're a teenager or even in your 20s and you're fascinated, you're doing firecrackers and stuff, and he just went pro.
Yeah.
Back then, everyone worked in a munitions factory for a little while. You know,
yeah.
It was
especially the children.
It was like
hands can fit into.
It was like having a paper route back then. You just did a little time in the old munitions factory.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jimmy, I heard you're now making an extra nickel an hour at the gunpowder factory.
And Jay, he
as I twizzle my mustache.
With his one remaining arm. Because the other one got caught in machinery.
Yeah. Childhood, you know?
Yeah,
kids are soft now is what we're trying to say. Yeah.
So but through all of it, he's kind of this sci-fi nerd.
Yeah.
He goes a bunch of rocket lectures. He's really interested
he loves...
like sci-fi. He goes to a bunch of lectures, and then he goes to a bunch of real lectures by real scientists about stuff because he can't go to school anymore.
Yeah.
But eventually, I don't remember if it was a lecture by or around this guy Theodore von Karman. He was a big rocket scientist at the time, and he had these kind of weird group of friends that were all really into rocketry and blowing shit up.
Yeah.
He never finished his degree. One of his buddies never finished his degree, and then they had one guy that was the guy who actually had the degree and knew the math and everything. But they were this weird kind of squad. They were called the Suicide Squad because they blew shit up so goddamn
That's
much.
Fantastic. What a when you get a good nickname like that, that's chef's kiss, the Suicide Squad. Now I have a thing. Did the guy with the degree do the math? Was Jack an idea man?
Jack was he was kind of the bridge of, he did a little bit of, he had some actual knowledge of the math of basically the high tier, the really specific theoretical stuff they relied on the other guy, but he was his job was to be the go-between and sort of an idea man, design man kind of a slightly more technically advanced Steve Jobs. If somebody that he actually knew how to build rockets.
Yeah.
And he knew the theory behind them. He didn't know it as well as the other guy.
And Elon Musk? Are you anti Elon Musk?
I'm very
okay. Sore spot. Didn't mean to hit it. That's my bad. That was the first thing that popped into my head.
It's of Elon Musk wishes that he was Jack Parsons because then at least he'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I could see that.
But so through all this, he also
he would at least be more current with memes. You know,
yes.
Jack Parsons would at least he would have
gotten
a little
that bear
less
joke from earlier
on the Twitter. You know, yeah, definitely. He was with it. You know, because of the drugs. That's how you stay with it.
Oh yeah.
But this guy Theodore von Karman. Basically, it's around the Great Depression, and so like so much crap is shut down. But they have this the Guggenheim Lab, the Guggenheim Aeronautical Lab.
Was this the Guggenheim?
Not the Guggenheim, like the museum. Well, I don't know if it's
I guess did he start it, and then like now one of his grandkids made
maybe the museum is related. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But
you feel like a rocketry lab in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Got into some dark shit during World War II, captured some power, and created some billionaires.
But they basically was like, hey, well, this lab is basically shut down since you're willing to effectively work for free because this is your hobby.
Yeah.
Here, you can have access to this lab. And so they went from being a bunch of dipshits sort of blowing shit up in like backyards to
a bunch
we hit dipshits with fucking mass spectrometers and crap. Well, actually, I don't know if they had mass spectrometers back then, but
they were subsidized dipshits. They
were dipshits that had access to vast arrays of scientific equipment, so they could make even bigger things that blew the fuck up.
Which, if you're going to be a dipshit, be a well subsidized dipshit. That's what my dad always said.
But
he didn't say that.
In True Suicide Squad, fact, they blow up so much shit that eventually they're like, you can use the lab for like tests and stuff, but when you're actually doing any sort of like rockets, you need to do it somewhere else. They move to this other site.
Yeah.
And then later that site then eventually goes on, they move to a different site, and that site becomes what is now JPL.
So, okay.
That's kind of like one time when I worked at Oakley in the mall. Me and my friend, we traded our discount to a wealthy Arkansas businessman who had season tickets to the Cowboys. We ended up being able to go 7 of 8 home games that year in exchange for our discount.
What a deal.
The first game, the man invited us to sit with him in his suite. We are underage, and we proceed to get fucking hammered drunk off the free liquor. My friend's literally roaming around the suite level of Texas Stadium because he's lost, poking his head in random suites looking for the suite. I'm just gone on Gentleman Jack. I remember just sitting there like I was just out of it, and then I remember for the rest of the home games we got to go to that year, we sat in the man's box seats that were safely away from his suite, and never actually encountered him at a game again.
I shouldn't bring the drunk children with me to the game. So I'm curious, what was the do you think this was
that was kind of like them making him move the lab out for his explosions.
When I think of advanced rocketeering and the founding of JPL, I think of Scott at the Oakley Hut.
That's right.
Do you think this man, was there a little bit of charity involved in this, or was he buying a volume of sunglasses that justified this expenditure? Did he have some weird resale thing going on?
No, he got his money's worth. What it was he and his wife were like Oakley super fans, so they loved. It wasn't just they loved like the sunglasses we got a good discount on, but then they would actually like buy the clothes and shit. They're like no one else really bought. They loved everything, and he loved they make a bunch of golf stuff, and he loved. Of course,
think Scott's being cagey here with a wealthy businessman from Arkansas and Cowboys box seats.
He would fly in.
Was this Jerry Jones?
No, I fucking wish.
Yeah. One of the Waltons?
Yeah.
Could have been. It could have been one of their kids.
I don't think the Waltons are hustling around for Oakley deals. That's just, I don't know.
I think that seems like a very...
The way you get rich is by...
You don't get rich by wasted money, all right?
That is so true. And yeah, I could see like... All right, not like one of the Waltons who's doing well, but one of the lesser Walton. I could have been dealing with a lesser Walton.
I do like that as a genre of person, a lesser Walton. Okay, so
he's from the Sam's side of the family.
Yeah. Oh, gross.
Oh, man.
They're not allowed to the family reunion.
I love Sam's Club though.
Y'all's tables
unironically, love Sam's Club. Oh, it's very warm memories of walking around there on the weekend, eating sample after sample.
We have a membership. We go. There's one down the street. I think Costco's a little better, but there's a Sam's Club closer to me. So enough about me and Sam's Club, everybody. Pete was just getting into the founding of JPL now.
But basically, the big sort of real founding moment, effectively, for their group is that they get a contract from the government for JATO, the Jet Assisted Takeoff Project, where basically they're trying to get rockets to put on planes so that they can make shorter takeoffs. And so they actually have, because the government is just sort of throwing money at everybody at this point in the aeronautics industry. They're like, a bunch of weird guys, only one of which has a degree. Yeah, they make decent rockets apparently. So here, have some money. And they got this big grant. And they actually apparently have, I don't know whether the JATO project ever ended up really being used, but they got the contract and they made a workable version of it.
Yeah.
But that was sort of their big break. That was kind of sort of what made them real. And so then it goes into becoming JPL. They get tons of money. It becomes really, but that's the big notoriety that what kind of made him a public figure.
Yeah.
Was this trial? It was this? He was a expert witness in a LAPD corruption trial. Because he knew a lot about explosives.
Okay.
And so basically, there was let me double check my notes. I'm so unprofessional. But so it was the trial for the attempted murder of Harry Raymond.
Okay.
Who was a ex-cop that was investigating the LAPD for corruption. And he went
prime suspect to get blown up.
He went out to start his car one morning, and it blew the fuck up. And so they were like, well, no, it must have been the mob. And it's like, the mob, we know that you were watching his house.
Yeah.
Like, we have evidence of this. And so he was called in to be the explosives expert about this bomb that was placed in this car. This trial ended up, Captain Earl Kynette, who was the captain of the LAPD, gets effectively convicted for this.
No shit. There you go.
But this is sort of, that's what kind of launches him to, I don't know, there used to be this sort of weird class of like engineering superstars of
I think we still got it. Like we already talked about Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. Maybe they're different because it's more a business about the money they make, less about like the thing they're developing.
Yeah.
But I think we've always put people on a pedestal that do cool shit. It's just what the cool shit of the time is.
But this is sort of what launches him. And so I don't remember exactly at which point in all of this, he meets Alistair Crowley.
There we go. I love this part where...
Hell yeah.
Alistair Crowley...
I don't know. I feel like there should be like
Mr.
cool...
Crowley.
Oh, that's right.
I think even Jack Parsons is even like a pretty notable character of history, and Alistair Crowley is as well, where he was just such a weird guy that like it's hard to be that crazy, but also like make it in a way.
Yeah.
Where if he were just a homeless person saying the same things, you'd be like, story checks out. You know, that's just a crazy guy.
I mean, it's sort of the whole, because it's never officially like a cult, but it's kind of like a cult.
Yeah.
And sort of him meeting Jack is also sort of another thing that kind of helps him launch, because he's like the Tom Cruise to his Scientology, which also we'll get into how he meets Hubbard later.
Yeah.
But so
star-studded cast.
On some level of it, there's no official thing of like, oh, this is why it happened, but it kind of looks a little bit like Crowley's like, oh, here's this young guy. He's kind of into magic. He's kind of been into. He's got a lot of money. He's got a great big house in L.A. That he calls the Parsonage.
I like it. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this
nice
guy
wordplay.
And he would hold up his hand for a high five every time. It was like the parsonage.
Welcome to the parsonage. Now take your tops off. That's what he said. No tops in the parsonage.
I'm getting
He's got all
into
this
sex
money.
cults.
He's this kind of sexy, notable figure in L.A. Is like, this is the ticket.
Yeah.
This is the ticket up. Apparently, this man basically like funded Alistair Crowley until the day he died.
Yeah.
Through Jack Parsons' money. But so he meets him, gets really into Thelema, which is the weird sort of occult system that Crowley
I don't know who's like the
creates.
ritual magic.
Yeah. But the big thing is their big thing that they're known for is sex magic.
Hell yeah.
But it's more like edging magic, because the whole thing is like basically of like, oh, there's this huge accumulation of energy during sexual pleasure, but you need to like retain that energy within yourself, so that it's basically just edging all the time.
To achieve maximum power, one must goon. One must be a gooner. Goon. What a fun little internet thing. Gooning.
Yeah. I never knew the definition of that. Is that what that is?
Yeah, like a guy jerks off a lot. It's not a cool definition. It's more of a funny word than once you actually break it down. It's a guy with a problem. But there's no
guy
magic
with
to
a
it.
carpal tunnel in one
Yeah.
specific hand.
But you can't bust nuts is the major theme of this religion.
Yeah.
You gotta
Hold it in.
You gotta.
It's your power.
You gotta run up to that edge, put on the brakes, nut wise.
Yeah.
This ties in slightly.
Tantric sorcery.
Yeah, to one of my favorite things Michael Irvin ever said.
I hate this religion already. I gotta say, you never come in with "don't bust a nut." What kind of sell is that?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Much like the...
I would chase them from my doorstep. I'm imagining them having
door to door. Have you heard the good word of jerking off and never finishing?
Yeah, Scott's right behind him with a counter.
I'm holding a
just
flip flop.
we only bust nuts, church.
Yeah.
We're here to bust nuts. Bust
Get them off, folks.
Busting makes me feel good.
Bust them if you
makes me
got them. Busting makes me feel. This is the second episode where we made that reference. The last one was just a video, but yeah. Oh, also, Walt Whitman was talking about busting nuts all of the time, apparently.
Yeah.
Because I realized that because I went back and watched Bull Durham. There's a joke in Bull Durham where Tim Robbins is all hungover after Annie Savoy read him poetry all night, and it was Walt Whitman, and he was like, limpid jets of love. Does that mean what I think it means?
Yeah.
This is the same fucking joke from like
Bull Durham.
a million years ago.
Walt Whitman.
I am really unoriginal, I think. That's
That's Scott's trick. Is he's just doing really
Just
outdated references.
repackaging
Things from 30 years
jokes
ago.
from 80s baseball movies. That's my game.
That's
This
the
is how I
Oddball History
win.
promise. You'll never know.
But yeah, so getting into Thelema and all this stuff, he's got kind of open season on his house. Lots of people come and go. Well, actually, lots of people come and then they don't come. But
Pun.
Is that a...
Play on. Play
It's
on
a
words.
word. It's word.
Double
play.
double entendre.
Entendre.
But so
Thank
lots of people come and go
heaven.
through the parsonage.
Yes.
And one of them includes L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Who was at one point, this is early on when he's still kind of this failed author guy.
I love that he makes an appearance in this, and it's at a house where the theme is you can J, but you can't O.
Yeah.
I like that.
But it's a whole. So he meets him. They kind of become weird friends. Now the whole thing of because it's this weird sex religion. Of course, there's no like exclusivity. There's supposed to be no exclusivity of everybody's for everybody. You might have like effectively like your primary partner, but like nobody of. It's supposed to be a free for all.
Yeah.
And so he has this girlfriend, and he's like, oh, just do whatever. Feel free to fuck people. And she ends up. So first there's this one woman. She ends up leaving him. I think his old wife, I think. Then he gets it with her sister, her younger sister, who's just 18 at this time, which it's a little creepy because he's like 29 around this time.
It was a different time.
Different time,
Yeah.
but also the same time.
And also, I feel...
If you're a millionaire rocket scientist with a dope sex cult house, you're gonna have some 18-year-olds in there.
Yeah, no, I was thinking for a
would
30s sex cult guy.
Yeah, that's actually
I think
very
18
progressive.
is the
Yeah.
best we can hope for.
Yeah, he's doing better than a lot of rock and roll acts.
Yeah, he's doing better than Chris D'Elia. Like there are modern examples of this that are not as good.
But so he's fucking her, and then she kind of has this off and on thing with Hubbard that ends up becoming more on. He gets kind of jealous about this.
Yeah.
But she at one point basically Hubbard convinces him like, oh, hey, we should start this business together, and you should front me this money to buy yachts. And we're gonna like flip yachts. And so he gives him 20 grand, and he fucks off with his girlfriend. Takes her on this boat.
What a move! The balls of a man that started a religion just to go
Steal
hey,
20 grand from
listen.
the guy whose house you live in, and also
Bang his
bang his girlfriend.
Hey, so I know I live here. I know I'm banging your girlfriend, but I got a business idea. I need 20 grand to buy a yacht. I got a guy. We're going to repair it and flip it. Just take that money and just disappear to an island. That's balls.
Apparently, because Jack Parsons really does believe in all this stuff, and so he does a spell to create a storm to prevent them leaving port. And there actually is, whether or not that was the actual order of events, whether he like took credit later. There was an actual storm that did force them to come back to port, and they ended up seizing the boat. They didn't get all the money back.
Wait, so this guy could control the weather?
I mean, it's like the butterfly effect. It's like, when Jack Parsons beats his meat, a squall forms in the mid-Pacific.
Yeah, that's why you never finish.
Yeah.
No, that's that's cool. I would definitely, by the way, I would do the exact same thing. If I were him, I would be like, yeah, I conjured that storm. Of course I conjured that storm. What do you think?
I think he calls it his divining rod.
I mean, a lot of
there's no doubt about
they call
it.
them like wands, but the wand is the dick.
Yeah.
And that's the actual thing in Thelma. They call
He doesn't squirt, he squalls.
Now that
Up top, everybody around. Sorry. They're not all winners, but I like that one. I also love that L. Ron Hubbard, like just
Ron L. Hubbard was his black cousin.
Ron L. Hubbard. But just like the more you know about him, we were talking about this beforehand about like being such a prolific science fiction writer that he created science fiction and sold it as a church. But now learning that he also was involved in like a sex cult.
Well, apparently, like a lot of the sex cult Thelma stuff is kind of effectively a part of what gave him the idea for Scientology.
So he's in a sex cult. He's a science fiction writer, and you just see it, just like the puzzle pieces come together of just like Andy has a yacht now with Sea Org, and he's like, I got a plan. This is gonna sound wild.
Also, it's the whole weird thing because there's another big sci-fi author that's actually kind of tangential to this because Jack Parsons becomes this big rocket expert. He starts giving his own lectures instead of just attending lectures because he actually knows a lot of stuff, and he makes some of the biggest early strides in solid fuel rockets and liquid fuel rockets. But the weird part is that at one point he's giving this lecture to like a bunch of sci-fi nerds of this like sci-fi association of people, and one of the people in attendance is Ray Bradbury. From Fahrenheit 451.
Nice.
He's this like weird teenage kid. And he goes to Jack Parsons' lecture about rockets.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I love Ray Bradbury. You know the story of Ray Bradbury naming Fahrenheit 451?
No.
So he called. I heard the story. He called like the science department at UCLA and was like, hey, what temperature does paper burn at? And they were like, we don't know. And then he called USC and was like, what temperature does paper burn out? And they were like, I don't know. And then he ended up calling the LA fire department and he was like, what temperature does paper burn at? And the guy was like, hang on, let me go check. And he went and said 451.
That sounds far too high.
I'm wondering if that may be the auto ignition temperature.
There we go.
There you go.
I think that it's like you could just say any number, and it's like, yeah, it burns at that. Like 10,000. Paper burns at 10,000 degrees. But I have an engineering question for you. This might be too tangential and not important, but what like rockets were around at this time? Because I'm like thinking of World War II essentially, and there was artillery. They just figured out like a jet plane. There wasn't really like air to surface to air rockets, I don't think.
Not so much. So everybody kind of started with solid fuel rockets. And the biggest problem was that nobody could aim them very well.
Yeah.
That's kind of why rockets weren't a big thing for a long time. It's really hard. It's one of the reasons they had the crazy problem, the Great Panjandrum. You ever seen that thing?
No, Pete.
Okay, so it was basically it was this weird, crazy like apparatus that was meant to like breach seawalls, in like when they made the landing in Normandy or otherwise in Germany, and they were working on it in Britain. And it's this big like solid drum full of explosives.
Hell yeah!
And then there's these giant wagon wheels on the side, and the wagon wheels are propelled by dozens of rockets that are around the perimeter.
This is an Acme fuel.
Yeah.
This was a real. They did some real Acme shit.
Yes.
That's how Jack Parsons gets a job.
Wile E.
Like,
Coyote.
you know rockets? Here, do some rocket stuff.
Do some rocket
we don't
stuff.
understand rockets.
Yeah. That is funny seeing like where the Wile E. Coyote came from. Where it's like, no, they were doing
straight
shit.
up. They were having rocket-propelled wheeled bombs.
He was a consultant on that project, actually. He was doing his part like all Americans.
It's all so. Basically, the core problem came down to we have these rocket-propelled wheels. We can't make the rockets fire exactly the same, so they're all got slightly variable thrust at varying times, and so they just always kind of like end up wheeling off kilter, occasionally blowing up people. But so yeah, basically the big problem is that they can't get like a stable, steady thrust.
Yeah.
It's too variable. And so Jack Parsons is one of the people that kind of pioneers how to get a good, stable stream. Which is interesting because he's used to keeping that stream in. But
Hey-o. We're talking about dicks, folks.
but yeah, so he's made a lot. He made a lot of strides in early rocketry. It's why he was part of the Apollo mission.
Yeah.
I think they still use some of his designs in our liquid fueled rocket. I guess now we don't use the space shuttle anymore, but
Yeah.
for those side boosters.
Okay. Nice. All right. I didn't mean to derail you. I was just curious about that because I don't think of rockets in the 1920s. I'm like, what's he working on? And it's like, oh, they were just bad rockets. we gotta start somewhere, you know.
Everybody. Well, because it's this new thing, and everybody. It's this whole weird thing. It's part of why some people attribute it as why he got into the occult is because there's this whole weird, vaguely puritanical thing about like, well, people have done some math and they did math without really knowing what technology could eventually do. But they're like, oh, getting to space, getting to the moon, that's never happening.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna murder everyone with this.
Yeah, like no, we can go to the moon. Of God made sure that we couldn't go to the moon. It's like,
Yeah.
well, fuck God then. So I want to go to the goddamn fucking moon.
Yeah, I'm going to the moon.
Because like he read like a bunch of Jules Verne, including I can't remember the name of the book, the one where like a guy shoots himself in a cannon to the moon.
Yeah, actually, NASA's first motto was "We spit in the face of God." I don't know if you all remember that.
Yeah. They got all those Nazis over after World War II, and they were just like, they had to run with it, right? You got to make them feel welcome in a new place.
Look, there has to be no God because otherwise most of our scientists are going to suffer a lot after they die.
Some of our team has made some whoopsies, okay? And we're not here to judge.
We're not here to count their whoopsies, like 6 million whoopsies plus.
We're not in the whoopsie counting business. We're in the rocket business. And business is good. I don't know. That didn't pan out.
And business is booming.
Oh, that was the obvious. That was the obvious. Teamwork.
That was like one of those awkward politician
Just
things.
the weird
like, like, oh, we like each other.
Yeah. Business is booming.
It's a weird
Because of rockets.
Obvious.
Another side thing of like early American rocketry of like for a long time of von Braun actually got brought into like the army, but then like, well, who's in charge of like rockets? Well, and then the Air Force was like, well, they fly through the sky, so it obviously should be our thing. And so it became a dick measuring contest, and so they wouldn't launch von Braun's original rocket. The Air Force kept launching rockets; they kept failing. And eventually they're like, fine, von Braun, you can launch your rocket. And it launched the first time. And the big thing is that they didn't realize it was something that von Braun had started to do, in part because of this whole kind of problem with early rocketry, is that in order to, even like when you could get a stable thrust, you needed to actually wait a little bit until the thrust actually stabilized enough. And so that's why they have the arm. The arm actually holds down the rocket while the thrust is sort of
gets figured out,
calibrating to a specific level of getting to an even burn. And then you let it go, and then it shoots straight up because it doesn't have all these weird intermittent.
That's probably
bursts.
a stressful time for everybody.
Now
it's very much it's like edging, except this time you bust into space.
It all comes together, like
now
the group.
Hold it. Whoa!
Just imagining Jack Parsons, Ron L. Hubbard, and Alistair Crowley in a room, just deep eye contact, going, hold it.
There's actually a known thing apparently of while he was casting various spells, which was also
I like casting
L. Ron
spells.
Hubbard was there to be like a scribe and like take notes, and so L. Ron Hubbard watched this man jerk off.
Yeah.
To non-completion.
Like you're in Harry Potter. Like we're casting spells. Like no, it's Jack in a room with L. Ron Hubbard taking notes in the corner.
and like,
this is all weird.
What notes are there to take?
Yeah.
Like what are you gonna? Is it like
the old Western
it's
grip?
magic circle, more circle jerk.
Yeah.
It's all right. I had a question. Werner von Braun's Brahms Ice Cream and Dairy Store, same family.
Braun with an N, unfortunately.
Dang it.
Well, there goes the rest of my note card.
Throw that one.
But anyway, eventually, he kind of falls out of favor. He also, weirdly, it's not as much the occult stuff.
He's thought a communist?
They thought he was. Is
that where they're going?
One of the guys early on, one of the early guys from like the Suicide Squad, a little after the Suicide Squad days, was like this very big communist, and like Jack Parsons was kind of with it, but he was never. I'm not gonna like join the actual American Communist Party, but like I'll go to meetings and stuff, and eventually McCarthy was like, "Oh, you went to communist meetings? I never joined the party, but you went to the meetings."
Yes, you
I was just jerking off in there.
Yeah, I was just taking notes on dudes jerking it.
I was just showing them how we do meetings.
Like I was just there so I could jerk it under the table.
Yeah, it's about merging corporate cultures. You know, we got to do more jerking here. Is what all I have to add.
It's a seminar, really.
If you want to get to the moon,
Seminole seminar.
A Seminole seminar.
This is the punniest one we've done, everybody. It took us 49 episodes to figure it out, but we're in it.
Almost entirely jizz puns.
It's all I got.
It's all
A
filth.
lot of jizz puns, which is weird because there wasn't a whole lot of jizz because the whole thing was keeping you in.
I've been,
True.
my wife's pregnant,
So true.
and I've been doing jokes about like getting pregnant and going to doctor, or got checked. And so like the last 7 stand-up clips I've posted have all been like somewhat related to semen. And I'm like, we gotta put an end to this soon. I gotta write a joke about my dogs or something too. Like, all right. That's my like, now it's my thing. Like, I'm the cum guy, Go see Jimmy, the cum guy. It's got a good 15 minutes on cum. Derailed it.
But yeah. So eventually, a combination of like communist stuff and occult stuff eventually pushes him out. A lot of people also didn't like him because he was kind of really merging. He was merging corporate cultures. He was like increasingly like bringing like the cult to work. Of like, while we launch this rocket, we're all gonna do this weird prayer.
Yeah.
So eventually he gets.
And a lot of people resent that because they like busting nuts.
Yeah. They listened to Scott's church.
Yeah, that's right. They took my pamphlets.
They weren't mad at the unprofessionalism of him whipping out his dick. They were mad he never finished.
Yes.
Exactly.
Especially because that means the meeting's never over.
It's a matter, yeah. It's a matter
Talk about a meeting.
because
Okay. Would you
it's a matter of principality.
if you had to like
As Big Word
suffer
would
through
say.
a long meeting, wouldn't you just rather your boss like whipped out his dick and busted in the first 5 minutes and then the meeting could be over?
If you have to
That's
have
a good would you
dick out in
rather.
a
So
meeting.
would you rather go to a meeting where you watch your
meeting.
boss jack off to completion in 5 minutes, or go to a meeting where you watch him beat it but not come for an hour?
Are we on is there a group of us or is it a one-on-one meeting?
I mean, you gotta. Do you get one of those plastic sheets like Gallagher gave to us?
Because I think if it's
Audience?
a group meeting around a big table, I would do the hour. Just because he's putting his pud in the
'Cause you have
corner.
people to commiserate with.
Now, if it is an intense one-on-one situation,
You're like,
I
can you believe
want
this?
an hour of just flopping it around.
Yeah, it's key to be able to have people to be like, you believe this guy? This could have been done over Zoom.
It's more like a chat roulette type of thing.
True. Yeah. That's where I got to start. They say.
Yeah.
But so he's eventually sort of pushed out of JPL. He gets a new job at a Hughes Aircraft.
Howard
Hughes.
Nice.
Because he's still big into aeronautics. But then he gets into trouble because he apparently like took some documents home that he wasn't supposed to. And the reason he gave was like, well,
Who doesn't do that? Everyone
does
does
some
that.
extra work. And I was maybe like putting together a portfolio because I'm planning to move out of the United States because I'm pursuing non grata here.
To Russia.
Which is, not a great thing to say when you're a suspected communist who is a well-regarded scientist that fell from grace that has a lot of secret knowledge. So he gets canned from Hughes Aircraft, and the only other job he can get is as like an explosives consultant for Hollywood. So he like does like the pyrotechnics for stuff. And essentially, at some point, he's like being told to...
Can you imagine just that crazy guy in the set? Or he's just like doing fireworks and he's just like, I invented NASA, right? And it's just whatever, talkie stars. Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, sure, Jack.
Get away from Greta Garbo, please.
Only one sandwich today, Jack. Craft services isn't for everyone. I invented NASA.
But, he He's this movie consultant. One day he's like working on the pyrotechnics for some scene. He's 37, blows up. He doesn't die instantly. It blows off like half of his face, and then he slowly dies in the hospital. And so now there's this whole conspiracy theory about like, look, the guy is a weirdo, but he knew explosives really well. How's he going to make this accident? And he's like, well, maybe he was suicidal. It's like, if he was suicidal, he would have blown himself up competently. Like, he wasn't going to blow off half his face.
Yeah. That does make sense. And also, it's like, he knows explosive real well. And it's like, well, you don't drown not in the pool.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's playing with fire, quite literally. It's going to go wrong at some point in time.
But there's some idea, like, basically, people there's the idea that, like, the CIA and whatnot were worried that, like, well, he's this rocket scientist, he's disgraced, he knows all these, like, high security things. Yeah, he might be potentially defecting, and maybe something bad happens to him.
When you said he blew half his face off, I thought he might turn into Two-Face, but then he just died instead.
I thought you were going to say he
blew
half his face off. He finally nutted after
I too
ripped off.
I was waiting for Scott to make an inappropriate semen joke.
I hope for his sake.
Thankfully, we got a random Batman joke in there, everybody. You know,
We're
growing.
It is great to have your cause of death on Wikipedia be explosion. That's really cool. You know.
Yeah.
It's one of the better ones on there.
Oh yeah.
I noticed too. I thought a fun thing was that he has a crater on the moon named after him, but it's on the dark side of the moon, which I thought was like a little shitty. Like I imagine him like trying
to the moon that we're not going to look at.
I just had a random fear that I was just like, did I start the camera? That's why. I was like, we're having so much fun. I was like, I probably didn't start the camera.
He's trying to get laid at the bar, at the old astronomist's bar. And he's like, I have a crater on the moon named after me. And the lady's like, I would love to see it sometime.
It's like, wow.
And he'd be like, it's on the side of the moon you can't see.
And then that says like even more like the crazy guy. Like,
and then right then, fucking Copernicus or Pierre Curie pulls up on their motorcycle. And it's like, mine's right there.
Yeah.
Because theirs I didn't do the research to see if theirs was on there.
Yeah.
I assumed it was.
It's a real my girlfriend goes to a different high school move. It's like, I got a crater.
I got a Canadian fiance.
I have a crater named after me on the dark side of the moon too, Jack.
Don't we all?
Now get away from Greta Garbo, seriously. Stop talking.
Do you think there was any merit to the conspiracy? Like the government trying to kill him? Or
I mean, a lot of all of that. Like, there's always crazy conspiracy.
There's motive.
But like, it's one that does genuinely make sense because it's just like it's a small thing of you're offing this kind of guy that has fallen from grace. Not a lot of people are looking at him. He's a potential security risk. Like
he's not doing well, so he could defect and get a cushy gig. And
so I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole thing with conspiracies. People rarely cover up competence. They will cover up incompetence.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have this weird occult rocket guy that kind of is this weird fuck up now. Maybe we sweep that on the rug.
Nip that in the bud. That's going to be a problem if we don't fix it now. What year was that in when he died?
Let's see. I think it was the 50s.
Okay.
He was 37 when he died.
Yeah, okay.
So he's 4 years older than me. So I have 4 years to, become a world-renowned rocket scientist.
You're almost
start
there.
A sex cult and then blow myself up.
Yeah. I think you could at least do one of those three.
I believe in you.
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be.
My big problem is, unlike Jack, I keep busting.
That's what you're doing wrong.
That's what I'm doing
That's
wrong.
what you're doing wrong. But yeah, so do you have any other final wisdom or anything about Jack Parsons that you'd like to?
There's a whole of just there's a reason that people don't hear a lot about him is because as influential as they would, like, they're kind of ashamed of this guy.
Yeah.
This weird sex guy.
Yeah, he's like the most important guy, but he was jerking off in the corner. So they're like, why'd you just put it away, Jack? You could be president if you just put it away.
But I don't know. Weird, interesting detail that I forgot to talk about of way early on, before the pseudo JPL story, he made explosives in his house for spare money. And he had a nitroglycerin still on his porch.
Not shady. That's just who does.
I guess you could just do that in the 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
And it's my nitroglycerin still.
That's pretty cool.
Do you know why they started making nitroglycerin?
Don't entirely remember.
Okay. I always wonder like how that becomes like, you know,
Well, I
a
mean,
chest pain thing to give somebody, but also an explosive.
Oh, I mean, it's it's weirdly easy to make if you have access to all the chemicals. I think that's part of the thing. And I think it may have just happened partially by accident.
Yeah.
Just because they were probably using nitric acid on something that had like glycerin, like a glycerol, some sort of fatty something.
Yeah.
And then something blew up. Like, what the fuck just happened?
Whoa.
They were probably using nitric acid for something, and like, well, it must have combined somehow with some part of the lipids and became that.
Get more of that. We're doing it. But yeah, there you go.
And, you know, the Alfred Nobel mixes it with a few other things and creates dynamite.
Boom. And then the ultimate rebrand of all time. Creating the Nobel Prize, being like, I just ruined everything. Dang it. But yeah, so that is the story of Jack Parsons, brought to you by our resident expert, Pete Jung, smartest Dallas comedian.
Shout out,
Short
Pete.
list. I don't even know who second place is, honestly. This gaggle of retards we all work with, the ladder from second to first there's a gap. There is a gap. But y'all got any shows coming up? Anything good?
Let's see. I'm doing the Spin Zone, which is sort of it's a roulette show about news headlines at DCC.
Nice. Is that with Kinsey?
Yeah, it's that one's Friday at 10, and then Saturday at 10 is my recurring show, The Dark Knights. It's third Saturdays at DCC.
Good.
It's an
Dark
all-dark
Knights. I've done
comedy
one.
show.
It was fun. So
Yeah, I have this Saturday, May 18th. I'm in Athens, Texas.
ooh, Jason hit you up for that one?
He did.
There we go.
And then Thursday, May 30th, I am at Hyenas, Dallas, doing a 325. That's my birthday.
Nice.
Come on out, watch the show, and you know.
I love those guys in the Tyler, Texas dudes behind Rose City Comedy. They're like doing more big rooms out in East Texas, and people are coming out, and they got like another Bear Creek Grill or something where they're actually having like John Reap and Tim Meadows and Chad Prather and like some bigger acts coming through. So they're kind of, it's like 2 or 3 people that are just building a comedy scene and doing a good job of it in East Texas. But let's see. On June 3rd, I will be on the Dumb Zone with Dan and Jake, formerly of The Ticket. That'll be fun. I got a 325 in Dallas, June 6th, and then I will be featuring for Sarah Colonna, like Corona, June 14th and 15th, also at Dallas Hyenas. But yeah.
Wheels.
Did y'all watch The Roast?
The roast of
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Nah, haven't seen it yet.
Are you not into roasts?
Not so much. It's because especially with like big figures, there's always this sort of weird like play of like, well, like maybe 1 or 2 people will like really lay into them about like, something that is genuinely like fucked up.
I think this one
I
was
saw
like,
some clips.
They got into his ass. Where I
He
think you could
also-
clearly tell there was off limit because he had like the kissing his son on the mouth thing that everyone was like, when he posted on Instagram, everyone was like, hey, wait a second. That felt weird. So there was, and you're like, oh my God, there's going to be 1,000, him banging his kid jokes. But then I think everyone agreed that was off limits. They had the Robert Kraft thing with hand jobs.
Which he got upset.
One joke, and then they shut it down.
Yeah.
And then everything else, like him leaving his pregnant girlfriend before Giselle. Giselle banging. There were some bad ones about Giselle banging the jiu-jitsu teacher. You're just like, God dang. Like they pan to Joel McHale in the audience, and he's just like, "Oh my God, like, that's rough." I loved it though. I love that stuff. You enjoyed it, right, Scott?
I have not seen the whole
God
thing
dang
yet. I saw some clips. Nikki Glazer had a funny crypto joke.
Oh, Gronk think no
about-
money.
Yeah, even Gronk was like, "Me know that's not real money."
And Gronk, to
solid
his credit, I wish
joke.
he was a good actor, but I don't think he is. Where they would do a dumb joke about him and pan to him, and every single time he looked stupid. Like he was just like fiddling with a button or kind of staring off into space, just like every single time they panned to him.
Well, he wasn't on his fuck yacht.
Yeah. You can't
Every
take
hour
Gronk.
of that. It was one less hour on his fuck yacht.
Yeah. See, he'd be smarter. Jack Parsons never owed. Gronk's only owing. That's all he's doing.
I was doing a show last week, and a lady just got on her phone. It was a very small crowd. All right. So I was like, are you on your phone right now? In the middle of my last joke. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is the worst part of it is she was immediately super apologetic, so I couldn't really lay into her and destroy a heckler.
Yeah, heckler gets destroyed politely.
For destroying this mother talking to her kid on the phone. That's what it turned out to be. She was like, it's my kid. And I was like, all right. And she's like, do you want to talk to? And I was like, no, I believe you. It's fine.
Can we salvage? Do a bit. Just talk to him.
And then I was like, well, is it okay? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, good. I'll take that as a win at this point in my set. And then she was like, no, seriously, like, do you want to hear him crying? And I was like, I mean, what comedian wouldn't want to stop the last bit in their set to listen to the cries of a child, you know, on your phone, the cries of a strange child. And then I kind of ended. I got back to my joke eventually and finished. And then the lady got up to me outside, and she was again like very insistent. She was like showing me text messages, and I was like, I really believe you.
I do.
It's
love
okay.
When like
and then her last line to me was, she goes, 6-year-olds, what are you going to do? You know? And I remember thinking like, it's not the 6-year-old whose behavior I
had a problem with.
I had an issue with at all, unless, of course, the 6-year-old was calling from a different comedy show. Which is,
then it's the same problem. It's a fun premise.
They
were heckling, and then they got destroyed, started crying, called their mom.
He was.
I'm getting destroyed by a comedian right now.
That life is so mean.
I just wanted to do a little heckling, and Steve Hofstetter just got in my ass. He was like the first one that did those. Oh, yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
Steve Hofstetter.
He's getting picked apart by Steve Hofstetter, the 6-year-old. That's why the tears.
Steve Hofstetter is giving me a verbal undressing. He is.
Yeah, if I was your mom, I'd be somewhere else too.
No, she is somewhere else. I'm gonna call her.
But shout out that lady. She was really, she really was a sweet lady. But it was.
I've always wanted to
hilarious.
do it. It's not that funny, but of like a clip of being like comedian destroys heckler, and it's 3 seconds long, and it's just me going like, "Shut the fuck up, lady," and then like going back into a joke. It's like, that's it. End of clip. But see, I did one of those comedy for the internet shows on Monday. Have you done the RBC? You did the RBC.
I did, yeah.
Man, it's a cool venue, and ours was sparsely attended.
Yeah, but I lucked out with we got pretty full. It looked like it was going to be light, but then it filled out like right toward the beginning.
Where it was same night as, you know, we're making excuses for a comedy show on Monday night, not selling well. But it was like Stars, Rangers, and Mavs were all playing.
Oh yeah,
and Stars and Mavs are deep in the playoffs, so we're just like, oh well. And it was fun. It was a productive set. Yeah, I don't think anyone killed, but everyone had fun. And it was like, you got to work on some new stuff and play around. So those comedy for internet people are funny.
Yeah, I like those guys. Yeah, definitely. Danny,
Dan Neely.
Yep,
they do very funny stuff. But yeah,
good folks.
Any final words of wisdom?
Yeah, I got cowboy chicken last week, and those sons of whores took the original cowboy sandwich off the menu.
What?
Can you believe that?
Cowboy chicken. They do the rotisserie chicken, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's delicious.
The green enchilada, the secret one?
Probably off the menu. Those pieces of shit. I'm so upset about it. I always get the original cowboy. It's a delicious, very plain chicken sandwich, and just gone.
Well, everyone keep Scott in your thoughts and prayers as he goes through a tough time with him and his family.
That's what he's about.
Prayer warriors.
Always get the cowboy sandwich and always bust.
Always bust. Stay busted.
Always be busting.
See you next time. Oddball History.
Au revoir.